Hey Wonderfuls! Welcome to the Quick and Dirty Van Tour. I'm Kayla, and this is MacGuffin. This is a 2010 Ford Transit Connect, and I've had it for 5 years. It's a DIY camper van build, and it has pretty much everything I need for myself, my dog, and my 2 cats to get out and get camping. There's way too much to cover in a quick video, so I will link a bunch of videos in the description and I will try to cover the bulk of it today. But I have to start at the most important part, and that is a huge thank you to all of my patrons, past and present, who have supported me and helped out and made this possible. Because MacGuffin needed a pretty huge repair that was beyond my equipment and skills and budget, but thanks to the wonderful Patreon supporters, I was able to save up and get this work done on MacGuffin so that we can get back on the road this summer. This van is very little, so I've tried to make the most of the space. I'm not very big either, so it's not bad for me. I do have a massive dog and 2 cats. So we've tried to accommodate everyone, but this van is definitely based around saving space and accommodating the fur babies. We've got screens on both of the front windows to keep bugs out and animals in. I don't typically drive with this one, but it does help with the ventilation when we're parked. The passenger side has a more secure screen, and we have IKEA window coverings up front. They don't completely black it out, but they do offer privacy, and they're pretty quick to open and close. That's a hair. Quick and dirty. We've got a fuzzy carpet grip for the cats and the dog's chin rest, as well as some sticky pads for the cats to get a little grip when they are up front. Got the rear view mirror accommodating a backup camera and a baby monitor so I can keep an eye on the pets when I'm outside the van. I extended the headliner and put a toiletry bag on it to make some overhead storage. And we've got fans galore in this van because ventilation is very important. The passenger seat has been modified so that there's a little platform and a little more space for the dog to sit, and then the cats can still get down to the floorboards and have a cooler lower spot to hang out in. I put a piece of plywood and a leather pad over the center console so that it's easy for everyone to walk in between the front and the back. And strapped to the side of the passenger seat is a partial axe collection. At the entrance to the back area, we have another screen door, and this one again is for animal security and keeping the bugs out. There's a screen between the front and the back of the van. And I also have a curtain that I can roll down for privacy. And then on the back of the passenger seat, there is a cargo storage bag. And that also has the control for the heater and a carbon monoxide detector, amongst many other storage items and electronics. Moving up, we've got the extended headliner, which doubles as another electronic spot for the video game system and for the cat dining room. There's a little more room for storage up there, but I try to keep it pretty open for the cats. And this way the dog can't get into their food. I've got a little secondhand monitor that I can play games on or connect my computer to. The ceiling is Coroplast and moving blankets. And I actually have moving blanket insulation around the walls as well. And the LED lights are a new addition. Thanks, Andrea. And I'm absolutely loving them. They work a lot better than the previous ring light that I had strapped to the ceiling. The couch/bed was one of the first purchases that I made for this van, and that was the 5-inch memory foam mattress, which I cut and covered with zero fancy upholstery skills. But the removable leather cover actually helps keep it pretty clean from the animals. Does not help a lot when you've had a leak in the roof over the winter. The backrest of the couch turns into the extension for the bed, which I really don't use that much, but it is kind of nice to have when you're sharing a bed with an enormous dog and 2 cats. In the leather cushion, I have extra blankets and my pillow. And behind the wall and one part of the backrest, I have an extra sleeping bag. Behind the other part, I have more extra blankets and also clothing storage, sometimes cat storage. There is another door behind me, which I'll get to in a minute. Obviously, we don't use it very often, but I can still access it from inside if I ever needed to in an emergency. And there's also a hammock in here that I have rigged so that I can set it up diagonally across the back of the van and potentially sleep an extra person or myself if the animals have in fact taken over the entire bed. I got a used roof vent, which works great, even after I modded it so that it's removable and I can access the roof through it. And I just recently trimmed it out with some found trim pieces and duct tape, of course. Opposite the bed, which, let's face it, in this tiny space, everything is opposite the bed. But we have a little kitchen, complete with artist block cupboard doors, an air fryer, a kettle, mini egg cooker, everything you could possibly need for camp cooking, and then some. I have a tiny sink and water system, and the water bottle sits underneath the counter behind the newly created dog dining room elevator system, which will hopefully give my dog a little more floor space at night so he doesn't wake up with his butt in the water dish. I also keep a little gray water tank under the cabinet so that the little funnel sink has somewhere to drain. There's storage and more storage under the cupboards, and even behind the wall curtain I have a little tiny vacuum that comes in very handy for this little space. In the summer, I will also strap an air conditioner to the little countertop, and that's been an absolute lifesaver for myself and the animals. Underneath the bed is the cat's litter box, and it's a very tiny space, so it has to be cleaned frequently. There's more storage space under the bed, and that's also where I keep the emergency toilet. There's a little chill den for the kitties. And lastly, under the bed, there's the power station with the inverter, the panel, and the battery, which we'll get a better look at from the other side. Got a little bit of storage under the floor at the back, and the floor is just a bunch of rugs and mats, and then foam interlocking pads. And it does technically have a shower, although I've never actually tried it out in here. From this door, I can access the back of the inverter and the battery, which is in its own enclosed space and vents through the door out to a tiny little weather shroud that can't even be seen when the door is closed. I also have a diesel heater behind the driver's seat. It's just a cheap one, but it works so well and opens up the possibility to camp in crazy cold weather. Minus 26 Celsius, I believe, was the coldest that I've camped in, and we were comfortable inside with that little heater cranked. At the back of the van, there's yet another screen door. The vertical zippers came off of dollar store wardrobe bags, and then I did buy a zipper kit for the bigger perimeter zipper so I can open the screen up more. There's mods and attachments so I can have a floating catio out the back of the van. I also have a hanging table that can go off any door of the van, and that holds the little stove. And there's a spot for my cooler or more storage, depending on what kind of a trip we're doing. At the other side is the access for the cat litter box, so I can take it out. And you can see at the back how I have the panels taken off and tarps and more items just stuffed inside every cavity of the van. And it's pretty well like that all along the walls also, for stuff that I don't need to get at very often. The back window covers are just foam dollar store panels covered with emergency blankets and spray adhesive. I will also use emergency blankets to cover the outside of the back windows and the windshield to keep the heat from getting inside the glass a little bit. On top of the van, I left the original ladder rack, and I've used it to attach the solar panel and the DIY awning. I recently just tried out fabric spray paint on that awning bag, and it totally brought it back to life. In the summer, I've got some white shade tarps that I'll throw over top of the van also. In case we're not parked near any shade, we can try to make our own. It's got a fair bit of rust on it, and quite a bit of dirt. But this is the quick and dirty tour, so I didn't bother wasting time washing it and delaying this video any longer. In travel mode, there's a little bit more stuff. Usually I'll have a bag of pet food and another grocery bag or two hanging from the hooks on the wall, most likely a case of beer on the floor, and depending on what kind of camping we're doing, I might have a few more items stacked around the floor, but most of the permanent items have their own spots. It is a really small space, but we've tried to make the most of it, and we're not in this full time. I think the most the animals and I have done at once is 5 or 7 days, and they start to kind of get sick of each other at that point. But otherwise, everyone actually gets along really well in here, and they seem to really enjoy traveling. Everyone's got their little spots when we're on the road, and they take in the scenery and look around at all the different sights. So I've had this for 5 years. The odometer just got to 300,000 kilometers. And it's been built and rebuilt multiple times and will continue to, because it's always getting fine-tuned and I'm finding out better ways to do things. There are definitely a lot of disadvantages that come with a small vehicle. Can always use more storage space and definitely cannot stand up in here. Probably can't sit up straight in here either, but never sat up straight a day in my life, so that's not a big issue for me. It's cozy and comfortable, and it maneuvers nicely into little tiny parking spaces or campsites, and I'm not afraid to drive it in the city. It does not have the most clearance though, so I probably wouldn't take it too far off-road and not on any brutal trails, but it does all right for what we need it for. I got a really good deal on this, and I think I ended up paying 3,500 Canadian for it in 2020, and since then I definitely haven't even put that much into the build. Most items come from reused, recycled, repurposed materials. Some of the more expensive items though were the foam mattress, the solar panel, the diesel heater, the portable air conditioner, and the house battery. I'm sure I missed a lot, but I'll leave some video links and a playlist link for you to check out, and hopefully you'll consider subscribing, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you again to all my amazing Patreon supporters, and thank you for watching.